All right, we've got a fair amount of people here, and some will inevitably trickle in as we get started. But I want to first of all welcome you all to the virtual open house for Fall 20. We typically would have this open house in person, but obviously all events are kind of virtual for the time being. Like I said, my name is William Wild. I am the Assistant Director of Admission at the Tulane School of Architecture. So I work closely with the deans and all of our graduate directors. I've met with a lot of you. I've spoken with a lot of you, answering questions and kind of helping you through the application process. Just to kind of give you an overview of the day, we'll get started with an introduction from our Dean Iñaki Alday, who will kind of give you an overview of the school, what's going on at Tulane School of Architecture, and what the future holds for our great school. And then we're going to invite some of our current students to join us, some of whom are already here, for a kind of question and answer panel. We've got some pre-prepared questions, but we also want to allow some time for all of you to be able to ask questions to our current students. And then we're going to go into individual breakout sessions for programs. So we'll have breakout rooms for the Master of Architecture, the Master of Preservation Studies, and the Master of Sustainable Real Estate Development. When it comes time for that, you'll be able to choose which breakout room you go to. I know that a lot of you have also signed up with interest in a dual degree program. And so the recommendation that I would make there is if you have, if you're coming from some sort of architecture background, if you're applying for the 2-year track, the advanced standing track, I would recommend going to the other non-architecture program first. But at any time, if you're wanting to switch between the two programs, you can always leave that breakout room and join the main room, which is where I'll be. And then we can get you into the other breakout room to ask the questions that you need answered. After that, we'll have an overview kind of the application process, answer any final questions. We're set to end at 12 p.m. Central Time. I know that we do have some international students. And so at that time, if international students want to stay on to ask questions specific to the international admissions process, or if we have any students who have questions kind of holding over from the session, we can get you with one of our program directors to answer some of those too. So that's an overview of the day. I'll post that agenda in the chat so that everybody has it and can see it. And then that way we can kind of keep track of time throughout the day. Before we get started, though, I want to make some introductions. So we have our graduate director for the Master of Architecture, Benjamin J. Smith. We have the director of the Master of Preservation Studies, Laura Blocker. And then we have the director of the Master of Sustainable Real Estate Development Program, Cassius Peeler, are all joining us today, and you'll get to know them a little bit better in your breakout sessions. But I do want to introduce our Dean of the School of Architecture, Dean Iñaki Alday, at this time to kind of give an overview of the school, introduce everybody to Tulane. So Iñaki, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, William. Thank you all for being here. Good morning. Thank you, students, alums, and faculty. Welcome to New Orleans. Virtual welcome. This is a gorgeous city, as you know. Zoom is great, and it's allowing us to have you all from all over the world, but I hope you can experience the beauty of this city, its weather, the beautiful day here, the intensity of the city, all in person next time. As you know, New Orleans is a paradigm of culture. It's music, it's fun, it's beauty, it's nature, but it's also a paradigm of the world's most pressing challenges: social and racial complexity, environmental crisis, economic disparity. All is here in this city that is an extraordinary place for maturing, for learning and getting educated. I am, let me introduce myself. I am, as William said, the Dean of the School of Architecture, Iñaki Alday. I'm an architect coming from Barcelona, where I keep my architectural office, designing buildings, landscape, and urban plans. And let me introduce you to Tulane University. Tulane University is the smallest of the top American universities, one of the 45 Tier 1 research universities in the US and Canada. It's small, which means it's very nimble, it's very flexible, it's very fast, it's very collaborative. You can navigate the university and access anyone and anywhere the university very easily. And Tulane is also a very special university because it was founded, its origin, almost 200 years ago, founded to fight yellow fever. We have never been an ivory tower, and never more important than these times of COVID. We have been fighting real challenges since the very beginning, since the foundation of this university. And of course, you will be wondering about what's going on here with COVID. We are really well prepared, as I mentioned, because of our School of Public Health, School of Medicine, our history, but also our preparedness to all kinds of events, hurricanes, etc. So we have been transitioning to Zoom and to digital in a very fluid way, because we were already prepared for hurricane season, etc. And in our COVID response, we have made 85,000 tests so far this semester. Our 1 week positivity rate is right now 0.5%. These are incredible numbers, and it comes from an incredible preparation. I wish you could see this, the physical adaptation of our buildings and our campus with new classes built this summer for having enough capacity to have students in person here, because of the policies and the organization, because of the testing and tracing that you are doing, and mostly because of the excellent behavior and responsibility of everyone, starting from the students, undergraduates, graduates, faculty, staff, etc. So we keep the integrity of the university with all our people, all our contract workers. It's really important for us, the community, this learning community that Tulane is. We are this only university that is doing absolutely everything. The school is a small school inside Tulane, but one of the most special and most central schools at the university. We were instrumental in the rebuilding of New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. And as I mentioned before, like the university, we are not an ivory tower. We work in real life challenges and solutions. We are, as I mentioned, focusing the most relevant issues of today and the future. How are we going to inhabit the planet in the next 20 to 30 years from now? And especially how we are going to inhabit the most vulnerable places, like the place we are now in the delta of the Mississippi and in many other coastal delta riparian areas in the world, the places where most of the people in the world is living. 95% of the people are living about 6 miles from a body of water. So it's really important that we are engaging in how we inhabiting this planet. We have the opportunity and the obligation to lead in how the process of urbanization, how the reuse of our buildings, how our preservation, how our real estate development, how our architecture is going to be defining what are we going to do for the future, and what this means in terms of social justice and environmental justice. There's thousands of people that are dying in the world every year, some even in the US, due to climate-related disasters, not to mention the economic damage and this economic damage that is endured by the less privileged people. So we really need to make changes, and this is a historic moment, and this is a historic place to become the architects, the preservationists, or the real estate developers that is going to change how we are inhabiting this planet. We are a school that prizes for educating excellent professionals. We are very well known for that. Excellent architects, excellent preservationists, excellent real estate developers. And we connect these areas really well. It's very important for us the possibility of not only having dual degrees, but also cross-pollinizing among the programs. Sometimes formally taking courses, but very often just having people from other expertise in lectures, in conversations, in reviews, etc. We, in our graduate programs, you are going to be pushed very hard. This is your life choice for professional life, and we expect commitment and excellency from our graduates. And we offer, I think we offer a lot. We offer a lot of research opportunities. We have research studios, we have grants, we have faculty projects, we have summer fellowships. The Small Center has special programs. The Small Center is our collaborative design center. And we offer a number of opportunities. Our goal is to develop each of you fully. So my sense is that you are now studying your choice. You are making the choice. And it's really important to think what kind of architects or preservationists of real estate developments you are going to be, and what's the place in which you are going to develop that expertise and that professional but also ethical dimension of what we expect. Excellent professionals that are well-rounded with high professional ethics, professionals that are going to have a broad understanding of the field and also the interconnections of the fields of the built environment and beyond, and who can identify what is important, what is just, and what will advance our society. In a way, expert citizens. So here we are in the Gulf Coast. We are defining the future. We really are committed to the importance of this historic moment. And we are expecting you to be part of a group that is together developing knowledge. It's not just only about instruction. So thank you all for being here. Enjoy the day. Thank you all the panelists for being here. And let's go. William.
Thank you, Dinalde. So we'll kind of shift and pivot now to our current student panel. So I want to welcome some of our current graduate students across all of our programs. I want to give you all a chance to introduce yourselves. If you'll let us know, your name, which program that you are in right now, where you're originally from, and also tell us what your background was before you started your program here at Tulane. And we'll start with Laurel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laurel Fay. I am one of the MPS candidates, the Preservation Studies program. I'm originally from Connecticut, and I was in Boston for the past few years working at an architecture firm in marketing. So my background in my undergrad was in marketing, and I also minored in environmental studies. And so I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do for grad school yet. So I decided to work for a few years and found myself in the architecture world, even though I was in marketing. And so from there, I worked for a historic firm, and that kind of piqued my interest in preservation and archiving. And so from there, I decided to look into grad schools, and I chose Tulane.
Awesome. Thanks, Laurel. Let's go to Angela Kyle.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to be here this morning. My name is Angela Kyle, and I'm a candidate in the MSRED program in sustainable real estate. My background prior to the graduate program was kind of on dual tracks. In 2012, I founded a placemaking nonprofit called Playbuild, which is focused on transforming vacant spaces into play environments for kids. And through that process, I got some firsthand experience in kind of land use from a social impact perspective. But my professional background, for the most part, had been in the media, marketing, and kind of branding industries. And so, I was really looking for a way to kind of bring these two things together and kind of take some of the entrepreneurial energy and focus that I had discovered from doing the nonprofit work and blend it with my professional background, which is more on the business development side. So that's really what led me to the program.
Awesome. Thanks, Angela. Let's go to Claire DeVito.
Hi, everybody. My name is Claire DeVito. I am in my final year of the MArch 3.5-year program. And I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, and I did my undergrad in Chicago at DePaul University, and I got my BFA in scenic and production design for film and theater. And then after that, I worked professionally in film for a few years as a production designer. And then I applied for Tulane to get my master's in architecture, and I moved down here. So it's kind of my background.
Great. Thanks, guys. And then let's finally go to Evan Warder.
Hi, everybody. My name's Evan. I am in my final year of the 2-year Master's of Architecture program, and I came directly from an undergrad program at Miami of Ohio, and Southwestern Ohio. A little bit different of an architectural program, but still largely focused on community engagement and programs like that. And so I chose down here to come look at a different set of issues and a different scale, and just about finished here.
Awesome. I think that's everybody that we have right now. So I want to kind of pose a few questions just to kind of get the conversation started. Obviously, we're on Zoom. This is where we probably spend a majority of our time. The educational landscape has really changed in the past year. And so I'm curious for all of you just to kind of give your experience about how this transition has affected you and your studies. But specifically, I want to ask, what has surprised you about your online coursework this semester or this past summer? Have there been any big successes or any big challenges that you want to speak to? And I'm not going to call on anybody, so you can just kind of, provide your input as you see fit.
I think Zoom culture has been new for all of us. So I think I was nervous about coming in. This is my first year. So I was actually working like over Zoom as well. So I have, sort of a dual experience with that. But I think the one thing that surprised me the most is how quickly we've adapted to it. I think, I don't know, learning how to use Zoom and like learning not to talk over people by accident, and all the quirks that come along with learning virtually and meeting virtually. I think we've all kind of assimilated really quickly and sort of created this sense of community even online. And I think that surprised me a lot. I think I thought it wouldn't be as good, or I was nervous about it, but I do feel like I've gotten the best of both worlds.
Awesome. Thanks, Laurel.
Yeah, to add on to that, a little bit of interesting developments that have come is a couple interesting things. Like this summer, I was working on a competition with a professor, and that was made possible continuing while I was back home in Chicago, and she was down here, and I can continue that development. And then even into this semester with these more hybrid models where in studio we can connect with more people and bring in more reviewers and still work. We're in studio working on fabrication, but then we are also remote having discussions on Zoom, which has opened up a great opportunity, a little bit of a dynamic that I didn't expect after going completely to Zoom in the spring.
I'll jump in. So I think a little bit like Laurel, I had been working, from a professional standpoint with a lot of clients and, just doing work remotely for a while. So from that standpoint, the technology was not unfamiliar. When we started the MSRED program in the summer, because the summer is so intense and we're really, kind of diving in, we were spending about, as a cohort, we were probably spending about almost 5 to 6 hours a day on Zoom. And, I think frankly what it did is it kind of really bonded us as a cohort. We were spending so much time together, just, kind of from the get-go. But I think that, we also started to realize like that the interactions in class, we weren't really getting to know each other. And so we actually, started taking some opportunities to carve out more, social time and, doing things like that virtually as well. The other observation I'll make, just from a content perspective, with some of the subject matter, I've actually found it to be, really powerful to engage interactively with some of the instructors. So prior to this program, I have a business degree, and so I had some experience in finance, but dusting off those tools was, I hadn't really used them in a long time. And so jumping into, some of the finance courses, it's actually really great to be able to collaborate with the instructors and the TAs in a virtual environment, because you can actually share screens and they can really dive in and kind of coach you through some of the problem solving. So that was an advantage that I saw was very specific to, to our program and to the subject matter.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, I would agree with that in terms of the diversity kind of learning styles has really sort of skyrocketed this year. I mean, this is my final year, so I've done 2 years already at Tulane, not in Zoom world. And this semester I am in the Small Center Studios, which is a design build studio, which is something you would think would be incredibly challenging, if not impossible, to do remotely. But it's a hybrid system. So some of us are there during certain times building, and some of us are on Zoom. And as far as working with community partners goes, which is really what the Small Center Studio is about, I think that being online has offered a lot of opportunity in terms of connecting with our community partners, because we can connect with them really easily online. We can hop on calls with them on short notice. We can show them things. A huge advantage has been, showing them prototypes of designs over Zoom, which is, pretty incredible. So I think that it's definitely different, and I think it's at first was certainly overwhelming, but I think that's true for everyone in everyone's respective situation. But yeah, I would say that the styles in which I've been learning this year have become incredibly more diverse, which I'm really grateful for.
Nice. Thank you all. So I know that some of you will have a little bit of a different perspective on this next question, having lived here pre-COVID, but what's it like living in New Orleans, and especially as a graduate student at Tulane?
Well, I went to school in Charleston for undergrad. So I would say New Orleans and Charleston are sort of sister cities. And I love that. They're definitely different. And I'm really appreciating the kind of grit that New Orleans has. I really love that. And I was really considering carefully the location of my program as I was looking. And relocating from Boston, I was really excited about moving and returning down south, and hopefully being able to stay. I would really love to stay after, but we'll see where the market takes me. But I chose well, I think. It's a really vibrant city. And even though the program keeps me really busy, I'm still able to carve out some time to go exploring a little bit. And I've really loved checking out my new home.
I think one of the great benefits of being here, beyond just the cultural experiences, is the fact that what we're studying and the issues we're looking at, you're living directly in it. You don't have to go very far to see the various economic issues, the issues of us studying being along the coast and rising sea levels and sustainable issues. Everything you need to address, you're living right here to experience it, and only have to go a couple minutes away. So I think that's probably the best part. You're not imagining it somewhere far away. You're living in these issues and solving them firsthand.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that, certainly for the Sustainable Real Estate Development Program, New Orleans is very much a living lab. I mean, so many of these projects that people look to from all over the country, kind of groundbreaking use of, instruments like, historic tax credits and some of the financing mechanisms, as well as some of the urban design, kind of plans and things that have happened over the last few years, like Greater New Orleans Water Plan. We're all of that is right, kind of in our backyard, and we're also working with so many of these experts, either on faculty in the program or they're coming in as experts to engage with us in the classroom, the virtual classroom.
I agree with all of that, and I think, New Orleans was one of the major reasons I chose to come to Tulane. I would say one of the top reasons I chose to come to the school. And it has completely lived up to that decision. I think that just speaking more on the cultural side of things, just what it actually is like, living here and working here, I think that there's something really, not slow, but there's something really like warm and easy about the city. You know, it's called the Big Easy. That is a really great complement to working in a really rigorous program. So when you are working in a very intense graduate program, there is something just so balancing about living in a city that you can really enjoy and engage with in a critical way, in a cultural way. I mean, I was living in Chicago before I moved here, and part of the reason I wanted to come down here was because of the size of the city and how it was more approachable than going to architecture school in Chicago, which I also considered. And I think that I really value that decision that I made, because living here, you know, it really becomes and feels like a home very quickly. And that's partially because of the people and the music and the culture. And I would say those things haven't even, I mean, they've obviously been affected by the pandemic, but I think that all of those feelings about New Orleans, I still have living here during the pandemic. So if that's your tipping point, New Orleans, on whether to come here or not, I definitely would say that it will live up to your expectations.
I always tell people New Orleans is a really hard place to hate. It's an easy place to love, but it's super hard to hate. Well, some of you kind of mentioned too that it's easy to see your coursework around the city. You know, it's easy to see things that you're studying and talking about and discussing in your day-to-day lives. I'm curious, from your experiences or your perspective, how do you feel that your coursework has engaged with the city and vice versa?
The preservation program obviously is very focused on the historic buildings in New Orleans. And one of the best parts, I think, of the program so far that I've experienced is being able to go and do studio out in the city and just kind of explore with some guidance, of course. Earlier in the semester, we did a project about documenting tombs. And, you know, coming from the North, a tomb was something that was foreign to me. And it was really amazing learning about that. And I feel very connected to the tomb I chose. But today, actually, in our studio, we're going to the French Quarter and we're going to be exploring the La Trobe building, the Louisiana State Bank. So I'm really excited to get inside and see it from, you know, a perspective that a normal tourist walking around wouldn't have.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's things like studio where there's often studio projects. I've had one in the spring that was within the French Quarter, so you're forced to go explore, but also various classes that engage in. And I've taken on a range of skills with an urban geography course taught by Richard Campanella, which explores the history and the geography of the city and really how it's come to be. But then at the small center, taking a public interest design course and learning about the importance of engaging the community and the different levels of areas that you wouldn't expect to explore and at a much smaller scale and engagement level. And so you get to kind of learn from above, as in the geography sense of the history and the zoomed out perspective, but also be down on the ground and learning how to actually interact with people and learn more about the history of the people themselves.
I think from the sustainable real estate program perspective, as I mentioned before, the practitioners are really such a huge part of it, because the instructors are all practitioners, professional practitioners. You know, we're really getting to work with some of the best, and because the cohort is relatively small, we're getting really great access to them, and just really having the opportunity to kind of learn from their experience. Specifically, this semester, we are doing a course in the business of real estate development, which is team taught by the leadership team from Gulf Coast Housing Partnership, which is one of the leading affordable housing developers really in the country. And so just, we're learning directly from, they're using all of their projects as kind of teaching examples, and getting the dynamism of like a team taught course, as well as the content. Also in the summer, our sustainable design instructor, because typically that would have been a course where we would have gone out to do various site visits and tours. got really creative and invited some of the folks that we would have been meeting with to actually film video tours. And so we were able to view asynchronously videos of some of these top developments and some of these top projects with the with these experts kind of giving us a guided tour and speaking to their experience working on them, and then also kind of the learning objectives. So yeah, just a lot of very different and creative ways that we're engaging with New
Yeah, I mean, because I'm in the small center studio right now, and I'm engaging with the community and with the city in a very literal way in terms of design and design experience. And I think that's true for a lot of the research studios, and there's many research studio options, right? So the small center is only one option, and many of them engage with the city in a critical way. But yeah, I mean, my experience so far has in the small center studio working in the city has been amazing. I mean, I think it's something that is missing from a lot of architecture schools is that it can be very individual and competitive. And I think that that's something that's not consistent with working in architecture professionally. It's extremely collaborative, highly collaborative. So to have the opportunity to have very collaborative design experiences with community partners and really feel like you're making a difference in the city is pretty priceless. So yeah, that's definitely one of the community engagement, and the engagement with New Orleans specifically is one of the reasons I chose Tulane. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. So another question too is, we think about the different disciplines that each student in a graduate program can pursue, but I'm curious to kind of get your perspective as current students. And Evan and Claire, you might have a different perspective since you've been here a little longer, but I'm curious how your program has interacted with the other graduate programs. If there's been any course content that has just kind of, piqued your interest in an area that you may not have necessarily considered before.
Yeah, I can jump in on that a little bit. It's one of the main helpful things is actually having a cohort that there's many students who jump in between and have the dual degrees, and that opens you up very quickly to experiencing those other factors. But with studios in which you're looking at a New Orleans context, you always have to be engaging with the preservation side of things. But pretty much everything we do here does zoom out and look at the larger scale of projects and the greater effects, and that really comes into play with the Sustainable Real Estate Development Program and looking at policies and zoning and all those issues, and having those faculty influence. Now looking at thesis that we're working on and developing right now, it's extremely important when looking at larger scales to have influences from both sides. So the engagement is largely in faculty, but also those conversations with just students coming in. When I did the summer program prior to starting my first semester last year, we had a couple of preservation students who were there, and just staying in contact with them and learning what they're learning and seeing their studios as we pin stuff up in the building. You'll see pinups from the different programs, and it'll pique your interest. You can go and ask people about it. And so I've learned more from just conversations with fellow students than I really could have expected either.
Yeah, I think I'm actually kind of it's kind of the counterpoint to what Evan just said, which is that sitting on the development side, just the engagement with the architecture program, and particularly some of my colleagues in our program who are on the architecture side has just been really enlightening. And I think for me personally, coming more from a business background, but being very passionate about design, like just having that opportunity to engage with students and faculty on the architecture side, and really getting that exposure is really valuable.
Yeah, to lean into the point about faculty, I think that I've probably engaged the most with the other programs through faculty, and especially now, moving into thesis and research endeavors. It's a privilege to have people that are so experienced um, in the other fields, really, um, right across the hall, right? So to speak, because we're not really in the building anymore, but right across the hall, because I mean, even like Ben is my thesis advisor, and we'll have conversations about the research, and he'll be like, oh, like we should just email Jesse Keenan about that. Like we should just email Cassius about that. So I think that it's really a privilege to have a multidisciplinary school. I just think that that is has a lot of value. And then as far as interacting with other students in the program, I mean, I have many friends and colleagues, many people in my cohort are pursuing the dual degrees in both of the programs, in real estate and also in preservation. So in terms of just socially, in terms of discourse and conversation that we're having constantly with each other as a cohort, I mean, that's all the time. We're talking about the issues of preservation and real estate and architecture all the time, just on a almost like purely, social and conversational level. So, and that interaction is able to happen because my colleagues are able to get these dual masters. So
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. I think we have time for one more question. So I think it's everybody's kind of on the same page right now of looking at graduate school and hoping to pursue a graduate program in the next couple of years. And with all of you kind of either just beginning your studies or wrapping up your studies, what's kind of your hope or your expectation after you graduate? I know that we don't know what the market's going to be like because of COVID, but I'm curious what you hope to do with your degree and what your plans are kind of moving forward professionally.
Yeah, as you said, I'm earlier on in my studies, so I'm taking a lot of time to kind of consider, what I'm excelling at, what I'm most passionate about in my classes, and hopefully that will inform what I will do in my career. But I can definitely see myself having a job where I get to be in the field sometimes and on site. That's something that's really important to me that I hope happens. But I also love like the research side of things and the archiving side. I've been able to kind of capitalize on every opportunity so far. And I just started working with Laura and Andrew Lyles as a graduate research fellow, doing research with them. So that's been a really fantastic opportunity. And I'm like super jazzed about what we're studying. We're basically researching, and I'm sure Laura might talk about this also, but we're looking into schools for African American students that were during the segregation times. And so a lot of them closed during desegregation and integration. And a lot of the schools have just been sitting there. So we're trying to figure out where those schools are and if something could potentially be done. And that's something I could see myself doing, like research like that after graduation. So I think it's important to just be jumping at the opportunities that present themselves whenever you can.
Yeah, I think as I look at graduation in this coming spring, I'm still, relatively open-minded, but pursuing this career in architecture and moving forward. But hopefully, within my interests of what I'm especially engaged here is largely public design and engaging, finding a firm that will work on maybe a little bit of a larger ecological focus and a range of scales as well. And I think that's one of the important things that we've developed here is this ability to look at a large scale and then zoom into the specifics. And so really hope to be engaging in that public realm in the future.
I think for me, I'm really using this opportunity to explore quite broadly. So, as I mentioned, my background is more in the private sector, but I have done some public sector work in economic development. I'm using my internship opportunity right now to work with the City of New Orleans water utility on a really interesting project around land use. But also just kind of staying very open to potential opportunities and being very inspired by all of the the instructors and the practitioners that we're working with and various projects that they've worked on. So feeling a little bit you know more open-ended about where what path I might pursue, but really just seeing that there are lots of exciting potential routes after this degree.
Yeah, with complete honesty, when I came to Tulane, I think I was operating under the assumption that after I graduated, I would move right back to Chicago and start working in Chicago, which is still an option, but through my time at Tulane, I've been exposed to a lot of work from all over the country that has really inspired me, and even been able to hear lectures by firms and by architects that I would be inspired to work with, and from all over the country, especially from the Southeast, because I really don't know if I would have gotten that exposure to some of the work in the southern U.S. alone if I hadn't come here. And now, as I approach graduation, my scope is much larger in terms of places that I plan on exploring and applying to, and cities that I would consider working in and dedicating several years of my early professional career to. So I think that Tulane really opened me up in that way. There's also other things, particularly research for me. When I came into architecture school, I don't even think I really had an understanding of what architectural research is, much less that that's something that I would want to seriously pursue after graduation. And now I'm very seriously considering and pursuing research as a big part of my architectural research is a big part of my career and my work, and a contribution I'd like to make after I graduate. So, that is like a pretty incredible thing that Tulane gave me, is just even awareness of that entire, other option. And also, I'd really like to teach eventually. So I'd like to get a lot more experience before I do that. But ultimately, toward the end of the line, I'd really love to teach as well. So all of those doors are open for me because of Tulane. So it's great.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate you taking the time to share all this with us. We're going to go into our individual breakout rooms now by program. Our current students are welcome to join. We've got some alumni coming on board who have joined in the past few minutes, just so that everybody can get an individual kind of focus on the program that they want to potentially pursue.